You've got two of the most elite snipers in the Marine Corps. A rifle that costs as much as a decent car. And a target they shouldn't be able to miss, but they did. Again and again. Their multi-million-dollar technology was failing, and nobody knew why. On a high desert firing range, the air shimmered with heat and a thick, palpable frustration. Corporal Evans, his face a mask of focus, pressed his cheek to the cool stock of his M40A6 rifle. It was a beautiful, terrifying piece of engineering, an extension of his will that could reach out 1,000 meters with surgical precision. At least, that was the idea. He exhaled slowly, a practiced ritual, his finger hovering over the trigger. His heart rate was a steady 60 beats per minute, his breathing was a whisper, and the target, a simple black silhouette 800 meters away, was perfectly centered. The Kestrel weather meter clipped to his tripod gave him the exact wind speed and barometric pressure. The ballistics calculator had crunched the numbers, translating the variables into a precise adjustment, up 4.2 mils, left 0.7. Everything was perfect. He squeezed the trigger. The rifle barked, a sharp crack echoing across the desolate landscape. For a split second, Evans watched the bullet's vapor trail through his scope, a shimmering line arcing toward the target. He waited for the satisfying ping of lead hitting steel. Nothing. Just a puff of dust a foot to the right. Miss. Right again. It was his spotter, Sergeant Miller, his own frustration barely contained. Miller leaned back into his scope, tapping his tablet to rerun the numbers. I don't get it, Evans. The data is good. The windage is correct. That should be a hit. Evans pulled back, blinking sweat from his eyes. He was a product of the 21st century Marine Corps, trained on simulators that could replicate any environment on Earth. He understood the physics of flight, the Coriolis effect, spin drift, all of it. He trusted technology because technology was absolute. It was math. It wasn't supposed to lie. But today, it was. For 2 hours, both he and Sergeant Miller, men who could normally hit a dinner plate from half a mile away, had been systematically, inexplicably, missing. They'd checked the rifle zero. Perfect. They'd recalibrated the scope. Flawless. They'd used 3 different brands of match-grade ammo. Nothing. Each shot was a carefully calculated, technologically assisted, professionally executed failure. Their confidence, once as solid as the steel they were trying to hit, was eroding with every puff of desert dust. The problem wasn't the gear. It wasn't the training. The problem was something else. And as the sun beat down, that something felt as vast and unforgiving as the desert itself. Section 1, The Arrival. While Miller and Evans were stuck in their loop of check, calculate, fire, fail, a figure appeared at the edge of the range. He moved with a slow, deliberate pace that felt out of place amid the high-strung energy of a live-fire exercise. He was an old man, tall and wiry, his dark skin weathered into a map of fine lines. He wore simple jeans and a faded olive-drab jacket, the kind that hadn't been military issue in decades. He carried no high-tech gear, no tablet, no digital wind meter. He just walked up, stopped a respectful distance away, and watched. Corporal Evans noticed him first. "Sarge," he muttered, "we've got a visitor." Sergeant Miller lowered his binoculars and followed his gaze. He saw the old man, standing as still as a desert yucca. There was something in the man's posture, a quiet authority, that stopped Miller from immediately calling range control. He didn't look lost. He looked like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. "Just keep your focus, Evans," Miller said, though his own was now split. "Maybe he's with the brass." But the man didn't look like brass. He looked like history. He was 74 years old. His name was Elias Vance, a Marine sniper who learned his craft not with computers, but in the sweltering, triple canopy jungles of Vietnam. Down there, the wind was a ghost you felt on your skin, not a number on a screen. A missed shot could get you swallowed by the green. Elias had been on base visiting his grandson. Hearing the familiar crack of the high-caliber rifle, he'd been drawn to the range by a primal pull. He watched the two young Marines for 20 minutes. He saw the tension in their shoulders, saw them tapping on screens, saw the puffs of dust always just off the mark. He saw two men who were looking but not seeing, calculating but not feeling. Finally, after another shot kicked up a cloud of dirt that seemed to sigh with disappointment, Elias started walking toward them. "You're chasing the wind, son," he said, his voice a low, gravelly rumble that cut right through the silence. It wasn't a criticism. It was a statement of fact. Evans and Miller turned, startled. They hadn't heard him approach. Up close, the man's age was clear. His hands were gnarled with arthritis, but his eyes were startlingly sharp, the eyes of a man who'd spent a lifetime looking at things far away. "Excuse me," Sergeant Miller said, his tone polite but firm. "This is an active firing range, sir. You need to be behind the observation line." Elias offered a small, knowing smile. "I'm safe," he said simply. He gestured with his chin toward the untouched target. "But your rounds aren't." Corporal Evans bristled. Here they were, two of the Corps' finest, with a fortune in equipment, getting critiqued by an old man in a fishing hat. "With all due respect, sir," Evans said, "we have the best ballistic data available. There's some kind of atmospheric anomaly." Elias glanced at the gear spread out on their mat. "You've got a lot of fancy toys here," he acknowledged. "Real impressive. But that machine," he tapped his temple with a long finger, "is the only one that can make the shot. And you've got it turned off." The two Marines just looked at each other, completely bewildered. They were standing at the frustrating intersection of cutting-edge science and ancient wisdom, and they had no idea what to do. Section 2, the lesson begins. Sergeant Miller, a man conditioned to respect his elders, found his curiosity getting the better of him. The old man's words, though cryptic, carried a strange weight. "What do you mean, turned off?" Miller asked. "We're following procedures to the letter." Elias Vance's gaze drifted to the landscape, as if he were listening to something they couldn't hear. "Procedure is a map," he said quietly. "It's good for getting you to the right part of the country. But it won't tell you about the snake under the rock or the hawk in the sky. You're not in a lab, you're in the world. You're trying to force the shot. You need to let the shot come to you." Evans just shook his head. This sounded like something out of a movie, not a Marine Corps training manual. "Let the shot come to us." "Sir, this is applied physics. Milliradians, muzzle velocity, it's a math problem." "I was a sniper in Vietnam," Elias said, the words landing with quiet gravity. "We didn't have computers. We had our rifle, our scope, and what was between our ears. The humidity made the air feel like soup. The wind didn't blow, it breathed. It would swirl and eddy. No machine could calculate that. You had to feel it. You had to become part of the jungle." He paused. "You boys are making too much noise." "Noise?" Evans protested, gesturing at the silent range. "We haven't said a word." "Your gear is shouting," Elias replied. "Your computer is beeping, your numbers are flashing, your minds are racing. You're so busy listening to the machine, you've forgotten how to listen to the wind." He gestured for Sergeant Miller's rifle. Handing your weapon to a civilian is unthinkable, a profound breach of protocol. But the request was made with such natural authority that Miller found himself unclipping the M40 and placing it in the old man's hands. Elias handled the weapon with a familiarity that was both unsettling and deeply impressive. He didn't shoulder it. He just held it, balancing it, his eyes closed. "What are you doing?" Evans asked, his skepticism now tinged with intrigue. "I'm listening," Elias said, eyes still closed. "A good rifle has a soul. It wants to be accurate. You're fighting it. You need to partner with it. He opened his eyes and looked at Miller. "Put that thing away." He pointed to the Kestrel wind meter. "You've got a better one right here." He gently touched the side of his own cheek. "Tell me what the wind is doing. Don't measure it. Tell me what it feels like." Miller, feeling ridiculous, closed his eyes. He tried to focus only on the air against his skin, a discipline he hadn't practiced since his earliest days of training. It's not steady," Miller said, surprised. "It feels like it's coming from the left, but it's swirling. It gusts a little, then dies." Elias nodded. "Good. That's a start. Your machine gives you an average. But a bullet doesn't fly through an average. It flies through that gust and that lull. Your machine is lying to you by telling you a simple truth. The world is never that simple." He then turned to Evans. "Son, get behind that scope. And I want you to look at the world, not just the target." Confused, Evans settled back into position. "No," Elias said gently. "Don't look at the target. Look past it. See the heat rising off the ground? That's called mirage. You're looking through it. I want you to look at it. It's a river of air, and it will carry your bullet just like a current carries a leaf. Which way is it flowing?" Evans adjusted his focus. For the first time that day, he was actually observing the environment. The mirage, a distortion he'd always been trained to ignore, was flowing lazily from left to right. "It's moving left to right," Evans said, a note of discovery in his voice. "But the ground wind feels like it's coming from the right." "Exactly," Elias said. "You have a ground wind, and a different wind higher up. Your bullet's going to fly through both. Your little machine can't tell you that. The world is talking to you. You just have to learn its language." For the next hour, Elias didn't let them fire a single shot. He made them put away all their digital equipment. He had them estimate ranges by eye, watch the clouds, and trickle dust through their fingers to see the wind. He was reteaching them the forgotten art of observation, weaning them off digital certainty and reintroducing them to the analog world. The young Marines, initially skeptical, slowly grew quiet and attentive. It no longer felt like a battlefield. It was starting to feel like a classroom. The sun had begun to sink, painting the sky orange and purple. The frantic energy of the afternoon was gone, replaced by a quiet, focused calm. The advanced electronics lay dark on the shooting mat. All that was left was the rifle, the scope, and the three men. For the past hour, they had done nothing but breathe and watch, with Elias coaching them in a low murmur. "You can't fight the world, son," he'd told Evans. "You try to fight it, it'll beat you every time. You have to join it. Feel that breeze? Don't curse it. Use it." Now, he felt they were ready. The lesson was over. It was time for the final exam. "All right, Sergeant," Elias whispered. "Your turn. Forget the charts, forget the math. One round." Miller chambered a single .308 cartridge, the click of the bolt sounding unnaturally loud. He settled behind the scope, but this time, it felt different. He felt more connected to the ground. His eyes absorbed the entire vista. He saw the gentle left-to-right flow of the mirage and felt the soft, intermittent wind on his right cheek. "There's a lull coming," Elias said softly, his own eyes on a distant range flag. "The air is getting still. It's giving you a window. It won't last long. Don't chase it. Be there when it arrives." Miller wasn't calculating mills. He was holding a picture in his mind, an upward lift for gravity, and a slight push left for the opposing winds. It wasn't a number. It was an instinct. He saw the flag drop. The world held its breath. In that moment of perfect stillness, Miller exhaled, and the rifle fired. The sound was the same sharp crack. But this time, it was followed by a sound they'd been waiting all day to hear. A clear, high, resonant ping. That sang through the desert air. Corporal Evans, watching through his scope, saw the impact. A perfect centermass strike. He let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Whoa! Miller pulled back from his rifle, a look of stunned disbelief on his face. He'd made the shot without his data, without his computer. He'd made it by feeling it. A slow, genuine smile spread across his face. You see? Elias said, a glimmer of pride in his eyes. You stopped trying to tell the bullet where to go. You asked it. And it listened. He turned to Evans. Your turn, Corporal. 1 round. Evans felt a jolt of nervous energy. He was the skeptic, the one who lived by the numbers. But he had just witnessed the impossible. He had to know if it was a fluke. He chambered his round. He got into position. He tried to empty his mind of everything but the old man's words, look at the world, not just the target. Don't think so hard, son, Elias's voice came from above him. Your ancestors knew how to do this. It's in your bones. Trust yourself. Evans took a deep breath. He saw another lull begin to form. He ignored the numbers bubbling up in his brain and focused on a single, intuitive thought, just a little left. He let his instincts guide the crosshairs a hair to the left of center, a place his computer would have called a guaranteed miss. He let half his breath out and pressed the trigger. The rifle jumped. The world waited. Ping! Another perfect hit, an inch from Miller's. It was a thunderclap of revelation. Evans gasped. It wasn't a fluke. It was a lesson, a profound truth stripped from his training by an over-reliance on technology. The feeling was overwhelming. A mix of awe, humility, and profound respect. The frustrating day had been a gift, a failure that opened the door for this old warrior to show them the truth. He and Miller weren't just better snipers now. They were different. Section 4, the deeper lesson. The 2 young Marines sat on an ammo crate, their rifles cleaned and cased. The sun was gone. The target leaned against the crate with them, its 2 perfect punctures a testament to the day. I don't understand, Corporal Evans finally said. Why don't they teach this anymore? What you showed us, it feels more important than anything. The man we're calling Elias Vance is a fictional character, a way to capture a powerful truth. But the history he represents is very real, and his answer gets to the heart of a real-world problem. Because it's hard to teach, Elias said, sitting across from them. It's hard to put in a book. How do you grade a soldier on instinct? It's easier to teach math and build a machine. He continued, his voice echoing a known, painful history of the Corps. This isn't a new problem. For decades, the scout sniper specialty wasn't a primary career path. It was a secondary job. That meant all this hard-won knowledge could just vanish when a sniper finished their tour. It left gaps. In Vietnam, his voice grew softer, the jungle was the teacher. It was always trying to kill you. We learned to read the way the insects went quiet, the smell of the air before a storm. The shot was the last sentence of a long story you had to read first. He looked at the 2 young men. That technology is a powerful tool. A gift. I'm not saying throw it away. But you were letting the tool wield you. A true warrior uses the tool, but he trusts his soul. Sergeant Miller nodded slowly. You said you had to be quieter than the man you were hunting. I think I get it now. It's not just about sound. No, Elias agreed. It's about your presence. You were fighting the wind, so you were making ripples. Today, for one shot, you danced with it. You don't conquer the environment. You become its deadliest part. The lesson went beyond marksmanship. It was about a philosophy. Elias spoke of patience, of waiting in a tree for 3 days, motionless, for a single target. Your computer gives you an answer in a second, he said. So you expect the shot in the next. You lose the patience to just wait, and watch, and learn. He exuded the quiet dignity of a man who had carried the weight of his job for 50 years. He was a living symbol of the excellence of African American soldiers, whose stories are a vital part of military history. Men like the Army's Nicholas Irving, the first black sniper in the 3rd Ranger Battalion, carried not only their rifles but the weight of expectation, proving their immense skill under the toughest conditions. Finally, Elias rose to his feet. The most important thing, he said, his voice firm, is that the target is not a piece of steel. It's a life. Your decision to take it is the heaviest thing you will ever carry. That's why you have to be sure. In your heart. In your soul. That's a burden no machine can carry for you. He placed a hand on each of their shoulders. You're good Marines. Strong and smart. Don't forget to be wise. And with that, he turned and walked away, melting back into the twilight, leaving the 2 humbled snipers with a lesson no training manual could ever offer. Conclusion: in the days that followed, something fundamental shifted for Miller and Evans. They still used their equipment, but it was no longer their master. The Kestrel was a second opinion. The ballistics computer was a starting point. Before every shot, they would take a moment to feel the wind and read the story the environment was telling them. They were no longer just technicians, they were becoming artists. The story of the old veteran became a quiet legend in their platoon, a potent reminder that while technology evolves, the core principles of a warrior, patience, instinct, and wisdom, are timeless. It's a lesson that feels more urgent than ever. In late 2023, the Marine Corps officially graduated its final Scout Sniper class, shuttering the program as part of a major force redesign. With the formal school now gone, the informal passage of knowledge from one generation to the next, the wisdom of veterans like the man in our story, is the only thing keeping these vital skills from fading into history. So, what about you? Have you ever had a mentor who taught you a lesson that went beyond the technical and changed the way you see the world? Share your stories in the comments below. And if you believe in honoring the wisdom of our veterans, please consider subscribing and sharing this video. Your support allows us to keep telling these incredible stories. Thanks for watching.